Always delighted to be talking with the creative team of Amit Tishler and Elliot Sperl. Many thanks to you both for joining. Great to see you again.
Thank
Great to see you
you.
too. Thank you.
Really nice to be with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You've had a big year with The Last Wardens. I believe that was the last title that we were talking about. What does it feel like at this point to be fancy? You're so fancy.
Are we?
Oh yeah, the most fancy. When we drink tea, it's always with, pinky out. That's how we know.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, definitely, definitely. It's weird. Like I think the production cycle for these products are like we're used to longer cycles from both like games and TV, but it's not like publishing is speedy. Sometimes it ends up being the same length from beginning to end. So we've been living with some of these titles for a while. So for, like for an audience or for customers, like it just seems like, oh, all this is happening all at once. And for us, it's like, it's been years.
It's been years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you've lived in the world of The Last Wardens. What is now around the corner? What can we expect from you?
My God. So there are two big announcements that came out literally in the last few weeks. One of them is Solar Sisters, which is our first middle grade title coming out from Paper Cuts closer to the end of the year. And much like Last Wardens, there's an entire multimedia franchise around it. There's going to be a K-pop album, and there's going to be a tabletop game. It's going to be a whole thing. But even closer around the corner is Stomping Grounds, which is a project we've been working on for a while with Humanoids Publishing. Um,
Mhm.
and it's a very unique animal. In many ways, it's I think, yeah, this was the first original graphic novel that we worked on with a
Sure
publisher,
is.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's even though it's, coming out after Last Wardens, the production cycle has been long. Because working on graphic novels is also different from issue-based series and working with different publishers also means like different paces. But this project's been cooking for a while, and Humanoids is about to run a Kickstarter campaign that based on this recording and when it's coming out, it's probably up now.
Right
So,
now,
right
there it
now,
is.
before anything, go to the Kickstarter and pledge because this book is going to be incredible. It's really unique, and we're going to tell you more about it, I think, throughout this entire show because it's worth the focus right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is an original graphic novel from the two of you. Anything that you want to prime up as far as what readers can expect in terms of the overall taste? Because I know that you've done the horror world. I know that you've got historical franchises. I know that there's all of that plus a middle grade on the way. But what might we expect on this plate?
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yeah. Happy to jump in. So going all the way back, I remember us kind of brainstorming together, like, hey, what should our next project be? Like, what do we want to do? We were flirting with the idea of like, post-apocalyptic something. Then I was like, oh, there's a lot of Mad Max out there. There's already like a lot of like, deserts and cars and whatever. Like, how about we do like a post-apocalypse kind of thing? What does that look like? And we're like, well, we wanted to like design this entire world to where it was we kind of based the idea around the Fermi paradox, which, as you might know, which is like, hey, why aren't there any aliens out there? Like, why haven't we seen them yet? So the joke was in our world is that they all showed up at once, all at the same time, and they kind of rained down these like seed pods onto our world and started terraforming it before anyone could do anything about it. And that was like the premise to kind of kick things off. And the way, sorry, I skipped over the lead here. Sorry, my apologies, Amit.
I was waiting
Uh,
for it.
I know, my bad. Uh, the premise of this world is like, from these alien seeds come these giant monsters, which is kind of where the initial pitch kicks off, which is like we wanted to create something that was Bob's Burgers mixed with Pacific Rim. And that's kind of like
Nice.
the selling point to this comic. So yeah, we started
Yeah.
working on it, and Amit, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so and that was really the genesis. I think it was like an email chain where we were just swapping ideas and we're like, okay, let's try different things. And we were trying to really tap into At some point, we really honed in on, hey, let's do a take on or a breakdown of this classic sitcom format of, Simpsons. And Elliot's been working on the Bob's Burgers team for years and on Central Park, and like he's been in the Fox animation ecosystem for a really long time.
Hey,
But
hey, and Great North. Sorry.
and great, I am sorry, I am
Sorry.
sorry. You are correct. And Great North. And it's something that we really wanted to do our own spin on, but we never play anything straight. So we're like, how do we really like kick it into high gear and make it into something different? And Elliot just like it was like, okay, I'm gonna just like try and throw a few like random ideas. And literally, I don't even remember what was the rest of the list, honestly.
Me
The
either.
minute I saw like Bob's Burgers meets Pacific Rim, I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I don't care. We're gonna do this. Like, let's figure it out. And that's really where all of that trickled down from. Now, in terms of what it is about, Stomping Grounds essentially tells, the story of an atypical family that struggles to get by in their crumbling, nostalgia-driven, high-tech city in a world that's been terraformed by this shower of interstellar seed pods and giant alien monsters. So, like, whether you call it Bob's Burgers meets Pacific Rim or Futurama meets BioShock, it's essentially this very wholesome, cartoony, funny, kind of insane take on all of these properties that really revolves and hones in on a specific theme. And you've talked to us before, so that's always a big part of our process. Like, how do we write a story that is very character driven and that has a unique world, but that is always anchored around a specific theme or statement that you can see and feel in every single character and every single element of the story. So with Last Wardens, the theme was failure, right? With Stomping Grounds specifically, the theme is embracing change. And I think one of we literally talked about this last week where we felt like it's a bit depressing, but I feel like the plot of this book and the world and the setting have only become more relevant since we started writing it to an uncomfortable degree. But it is, in the end of the day, something that's fairly lighthearted, right? So you're not coming into something as, I think that's going to throw people off if you're used to my work from Eden Frost or our work on The Last Wardens. This is going to be completely different. Both this and Solar Sisters are actually closer in line than something like Eden Frost or The Last Wardens, completely worlds apart, because it is a lot more, dare I say, optimistic? I think wholesome is a
I'd
good
say
word.
wholesome and I'd say optimistic for
There,
sure.
there is more of a hint of optimism. It is not as
Yeah.
dark. It is more gentle, more colorful, more lighthearted and funny. So it is very different, and even I think how we've written it, like the style itself, really takes a different spin on everything that we've done to date, and that part is just creatively exciting for us.
It is.
What was it like to get into kind of the stretch of a graphic novel? Because as you were saying, that's a different experience than a series. What was that like? Just kind of keeping yourselves going creatively. Did you have a support group for each other? Were you
We were
encouraging to
each
each
other's
other?
support group.
Love it, love it, love
That always works, right, Amit?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm
Oh,
I'm great
totes.
at I'm great at giving emotional support to people. Fantastic.
To answer your question, though, since this was our first real book together, we wrote this years ago, so this is the format we're actually more used to than, at least I'm more used to than series.
Yeah.
Last Wardens as a series was new for me. By that point, we did Stomping, yeah, two
We
Humanoids
had
books
two. Yeah.
under our belt, under the same format. So I don't know. I think Last Wardens in a lot of ways was the breakout for us. So
Yeah.
little switcheroo there.
Yeah, it is funny to see like how everything is coming out in reverse because from all of our titles, the ones that are out, the ones that are coming, and then the ones that haven't really been announced yet, we've started with the two graphic novels with humanoids first. So we were a lot more used to this format, and then I took on Eden Frost, which was an issue-based series, and
it.
that was a good just, learning how to break that and how to deal with everything from, we're very involved with like marketing and stuff like that. So even that pipeline changed when thinking about a single unit versus like multi-issue and then trade paperback and then adaptations or whatever. So in many ways, I was thrown into the deep waters with Eden Frost. And when we started Last Wardens, I already brought all this knowledge, so we were just ready to hit the ground running. I think some of the bigger differences in retrospect, this is all in retrospect. Uh, and there's also, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. There is something that was interesting with Stomping Grounds in particular that is inherent to this book that we've never really done, but in a sense kind of trained us to get ready for the issue-based series because
Mhm.
because of the roots of this being in this like very sitcom-y format, we've actually made the story feel more chapter-based or episodic, or the balance between standalones and tentpoles. So unlike a show like Simpsons or Bob's Burgers that are all essentially standalones with minor exceptions here and there, we do have tent poles for the plot of the world as a whole, or like, running themes and running like stories that kind of like everything moves forward little by little. But we've actually written three separate stories into this book, right? So it feels like three episodes. It feels like a mini season. They're bigger than an issue based, right? But they are essentially three standalone stories within the book that connect through a general tentpole storyline. And I think that's been an interesting experience that we've never really done again within the graphic novel format. Because Solar Sisters is also a graphic novel, but Solar Sisters and something like Postmortal, which is going to be our 2027 title, they're, I would say, more like, if I'm trying to find the film equivalent, they are more like a feature film, right? Where it is
Nice.
one gigantic plot, as opposed to something that's broken into chapters or issues or mini episodes. And I think that's the biggest difference in format, really. And Stomping Grounds is a middle ground of which is
Unintended.
weird to think about. Yeah, yes. But it is a middle ground between the two. It's experimental in that sense, and I think it works really nicely. And it makes for a very light read. And it also means you have very clear stopping points in it that you can say, like, okay, I just finished chapter one. It ended in a cliffhanger. I can immediately transition into chapter two, or I can do it tomorrow, but you have a very clear, like, this was my episode of the day. And it is something that I think we will continue thinking about doing in the future in a similar format because it is fun. It breaks the medium in a cool way, and it was a challenge. It was a challenge to think about it in that sense. And because it was our first project, that came along with a whole bunch of challenges, but it was fun.
I imagine with a project like that, the two of you have now worked together on several titles and you have a vision going forward. I imagine you have kind of a creative shorthand. You've gotten used to each other. You're finishing each other's.
Sandwiches. Yeah. All the
Exactly.
time.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So I imagine there's its own reward to finding your creative people.
I'd say so. I mean, kicking off with Amit, like, man, this goes back years. We've developed shorthands from Stomping Grounds. Like, that's the wild thing to think
Yeah,
about. Uh,
yeah,
Going back that many years, I'm trying to even remember, like, that was the first time we dived into writer duet. That was the first
yes,
time, even the way we used to bullet point story, like story
yeah,
beats was completely different back in the day. Like a
yeah.
lot of stuff changed. There's a lot of like room for experimentation back then that we had to figure out and then obviously have gotten better, I would say, over the years, hopefully.
100%.
But
100%. No, it's
yeah,
it's been this like ever evolving process. I mean, Stomping Grounds in many ways, when we even look back at how the script is structured, how we handle stuff like visual references or descriptions, we've refined things significantly, and it was all based on just our experiences of working with each other, like what's a good pace, what's a good breakdown of who does what, at what stage should we do X, Y, and Z. So there's like basic stuff like that. Then there's just stuff that comes out of working with different editors, right? By the time we finished Postmortal, like the script for Postmortal, and I started working with Eden Frost, I was already working with editors at Mad Cave, and some of them just have different like preferences or wants that once you start working on it, I was like, this is actually a good practice. I'm going to incorporate it. And now that Elliot's coming into the next title, we're going to incorporate it into how we do things. And then we refine it. So in Last Wardens, all of a sudden the script started being structured a little bit differently, which we also found was a lot more effective for communication with the artists that we work with, right? And then I feel by the time we got to Solar Sisters, it was really just like streamlined. Um, but that's just an endless process of iteration because I feel like no matter what, there's always a way to improve and iterate on what you're doing to just produce better and to work better. And it's not a process. You'll never reach like this is the perfect point. It's always going to
Right.
evolve. It's always going to evolve. And that's part of it.
Also, not for nothing, but you know what stayed the same for a lot of these
Mm.
titles is the way we split up stories across like how we
Mhm.
handle the writing. Like if I we tend to stick to characters that speak to us, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
for example with this, I stuck to a lot of the stuff with I think with it, I think I did a lot of Norman stuff and a lot of stuff with K. I think you handled a lot
Yeah.
of stuff with Z in particular.
Yes.
And then Jingles, you know, like those were like
Yeah.
the characters you were drawn towards, and like it worked.
Yeah.
Um, and we kind of did that a little bit. I mean, obviously, there's never going to be perfect breakpoints in a story,
Right.
obviously, but if a scene or sequence happens around a specific character or if that's their time to shine, that's usually where we're like, oh, I would love to handle that because I think I have a great idea for how we're gonna like deal with this and this, and that's where the really creative elements come in because I'm like, oh, if I do this, then you can do that, and that'll really speak back the point, the thing in the first act.
Yeah.
So
It's,
I don't know, it's
Yeah. It's
gravitating
those
towards
like
certain characters. We definitely like nab those scenes and kind of evenly distribute them out, and it works really well, I think.
yeah, yeah. It's this like personality matching or like
Yeah.
emotional vibe matching, right? Like if you really resonate with something specific or like this voice is a voice that I'm very comfortable with. We kind of allow each other to take the lead on specific things in order to set a foundation that then can be iterated upon. But that has been, once again, an iterative process that applies to both story elements and character elements.
nice, nice. Please tell us about the first time you met. Is it kaiju? Kaiju? How does one say this? I'm curious about
Kaiju?
that part.
Kaiju.
Kaiju.
Yes, kaiju. How did that enter your creative vision and field?
You mean the monsters?
Yes, yeah. Like what inspirations do you pull back from in that area?
I will let Elliot start with this one.
Wow. So Stomping Grounds is, I would say, it's the kaijus are only. I know this is going to be blasphemy for a lot of Godzilla fans. I get it. I understand. And even the title itself, I'm going to take a little bit of a defensive like step back here. But truth be told, a lot of the
Uh-huh.
influence and inspirations that came from this were all from a lot of like dystopian future and other alien resources. Like there was a lot of like
Nice, nice.
one of the characters has an alien hacking machine, which is kind of inspired by like the Guyver unit from Bio Booster Armored Guyver. The city itself is kind of like a weird combination between like Amazon as a company and the city from Eon Flux from
Oh,
MTV. Like
nice.
there's just a lot of it. It's kind of the Wild West back in the day. We were throwing a lot of ideas to the wall and just kind of stuck, kept whatever felt right and was fun. So it's a grab bag of things. Even oh, yeah, so here's another one. I forget the name of the anime. Oh, it's Parasite actually. There's a very specific Parasite reference in this as well, which
Yes.
is like another callback. So
Cool.
it
Yeah.
has a whole bunch of grab bag things, including of course Godzilla, Pacific Rim, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think one of the important things to pose when people look at this, the one of our policies coming into this story is that the monsters and the monster battles and the giant robots, they're background noise. They're not the
Yeah.
focus. Because as we've established, the story is about this family just trying to live daily lives. They like Norman, the dad is a single dad, and he is also one of these Centurions are the big mechs. He's one of their engineers, right? None of these people are warriors. None of them ever pilot, right? Lena, who's his girlfriend, is one of their superstar pilots, but the story is not about that, to the point where there is literally only a single mech and monster battle throughout the entire story, and it's happening in the background. And we make a point of it because the whole point is like, this is happening in the background, but it's just a daily occurrence. This is just what we deal with, right? We have monster attacks, but life has to go on, to the point where they have a little, like, gadget to just like, oh, she just punched a monster in the background and you have like blood splattering out. You need a little umbrella that just pops out and, takes care of you because you're going to get splattered. So that's where the real focus is, because I feel like the whole story talks about nostalgia, right? And it's a critique of nostalgia. But that's why we keep referring to it as embracing change, because the whole idea of this dystopian city, century city, and this is a lot of where a lot of the references Elliot was using kind of come in, of, BioShock Infinite, even like Judge Dredd, these like walled cities that build an echo chamber and a bubble around them, right? Where reality is framed through propaganda. And the way that the city essentially maintains power over the people is by selling them a vision that is nostalgic, a vision of the past. Meaning, like, the world has changed because these seed pods came in and these aliens just ruined everything, and outside everything is dangerous and hostile and terrible. But here, in Century City, we will protect the world that was, right? This is going to be the last bastion of our humanity, right? The best version of humanity that has ever existed. And that is being sold visually, it's being sold audibly, it's being sold through consumer products. Like, this world is very immersive in a sense that it constantly tries to convince you that this is the best version of everything from humanity. And what you actually see is a mishmash of things that don't really match together, but it constantly tries to like trigger this nostalgic feeling in everybody because it's comfortable. And the world outside is scary. And they build these giant robots to protect us. And look at these gigantic monsters coming in from, you don't want that. Stay here, stay safe. So that's the entire setup. And all of our characters are somewhere on a spectrum of where they fit in how much they buy into this reality versus how much they're really curious about the outside, or how much of an anarchist they are. So back to what Elliot was saying about like us kind of assigning characters, a lot of it is also tied to that because the voices are very specific, right? We have the character of Lena King, who's like the hero of the city. She's like the superstar pilot of these like Centurion mechs, and she's the best fighter that the city's got. And the city has rewarded her. Not in a cynical way. Like, she grew up and from nothing, it gave her this opportunity to become a protector, to become a hero, to become a symbol. So she's thankful, right? And she believes whatever the city has to sell. Not because she's evil, but because in her reality, that has all been true. It's all she's seen, and she believes in it, right? Wholeheartedly. Norman, who's the dad, is more jaded. He's somebody who the very first plot talks about him essentially being very nostalgic and missing his childhood because he grew up in the world before the Fermi fall. Like, the book actually starts with us seeing him and his wife, then Ruby, running away as the world around them is literally going nuts. These like weird alien forests are popping everywhere. They don't know what's going on. Cities are collapsing. So it's very, very dramatic. And what he always tries to latch onto is like, I want to share with my kids. This is what I grew up on. Look at how great the world was, right? Appreciate what you have. So that's very much his mindset, but he's not overzealous about it. It just gives him comfort. It's nostalgia and it's comfort food, right? Very much like sitcoms, like Simpsons and like Bob's Burgers. That's where that format came from. Kay is somebody who is a girl who grew up in this city, and she was very much inspired by Lisa Simpson, right? I want to be the good girl. I want to be like Lena King is my hero. When they talk about what is the ideal Century City citizen, this is who I want to be. And without spoiling too much, reality ends up getting in the way of that, and that really messes her up. where they're telling her, in order to belong, to be the ideal, you have to be all these things. And something in her nature is a pushback against that, and she has to deal with that conflict. And then you have Z, who is the kid, right? He's the younger brother. He's more of the Bart Simpson type, and he's a total anarchist. He's like, no, the outside sounds awesome. I don't believe anything. This is all. I want that hacking machine so I can, like rejigger stuff and find out like forbidden information. That's all he cares about, the rebellious little kid. And then you have Jingles, and I'll let Elliot talk about Jingles because he's a unique creature in this entire spectrum.
He is. Jingles is kind of the outside character. He is an alien that was basically crash landed, his seed pod crash landed in the city, and he was kind of adopted by the city, but in a sort of messed up way where he's kind of the example of what not to be in the city. So he teams up with Norman because he's brilliant. He's a brilliant mechanist, just like Norman is. So the two of them work together, but they kind of use him as a walking example of propaganda. And he was raised in a situation where he knows he's the outsider. Like, yet this is the home he knows. This is where he was born and raised. So friends and family, like that's just what he has around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This conflict of being torn between who you are, which is a theme that comes up very often, like who you are by nature, who the city expects you to be, and where you actually stand. So all of these characters are somewhere on that spectrum, and it's all, once again, tied to this idea of whether you embrace change or whether you push back on it.
Also, not for nothing, but there's an unseen character, so to speak, which is kind of it's the leader of the city named Rufus, who he only has a couple lines of dialogue and acts as the I want to say this loosely, the antagonist, although not direct antagonist. Oh, there you go. Wow, wow. Very
you
dramatic.
Saw the sun blasting me from the outside, and I'm like, bring me the dark.
That's right. What a moment. What a moment for that.
That was amazing. But yeah, like Rufus acts as kind of the honey in everyone's ears, where it's like he's trying to sell the propaganda. He's the one holding this nostalgia together in the city and trying to keep people under his thumb. But like I said, he's not directly antagonizing the characters by anything, he does or says. He doesn't really know them that well, except for maybe Lena. And that's kind of it. This is all happening kind of in the background, just like the kaiju battles. You just feel it in the city. And that's kind of like the fun of that character. You see him just in the distance. You see the statues. You see that, like, how he presents himself.
The metaphor of like there's an earthquake from one of the attacks, and a statue of his crumbles right in front of his window, and
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds like fascinating world building, and it sounds like you have this range of characters that let you kind of spin different perspectives to understand that world. So really nice balancing there of the elements of the story.
Yeah.
Fun fact, actually. Speaking of like early on processes working together, our art deck for this was insane back in the day.
Yeah.
We had so many references. We designed the sewer system, I think, at a certain point.
Yeah.
We spent like
nice.
that got cut. Like, there's so much that got cut down that was like, oh no, here's how the railroad system, here's how like the delivery systems work.
Yep.
Wow.
Like you actually animated like a sequence of how the food delivery, because we had this whole idea of how, like you're essentially in a self-sustaining city that tries to not take anything from the outside because that's tainted, that's toxic, that's a no-go. And you have to continuously say, no, what we have here is all you ever need. But you're running out of resources in the end. And that's the whole point, right? You have to embrace change. It's already here. And the more you try to push back on it, the more you try to keep it out, the more you crumble on the inside. And all of these things we don't like exposition dumps. And it's just in the reality around them, and you get exposed to it by daily struggles, right? Like, or daily complaints. So you get exposed to all of these elements just as the story goes. And in the end, the plots themselves are really simple. That's where we do lean into this like sitcom format to generate the actual stories. And you find everything else out because you are just living daily lives with them. So if the dad, Norman, is trying to connect with his kids about the wonders of video gaming in his era, then all of a sudden he has to take them outside. There is a festival called Retro Fest, and they're selling all these old relics. And you have like very relatable stuff of like the kids looking at the old consoles the dad plays and just went like, this is garbage, right? This is like we have much better things today. And he's like, no, no, you don't understand. So you're starting to find out how this reality functions through very, very simple things that come from these very basic character plots. And what this approach of trying to maintain reality as it is does is that all these plots suddenly fall apart, right? Everything, like that's where you start seeing resistance. And that's where we really break from the comfort food format. Because in a Bob's Burgers, in a Simpsons, essentially, it's a sitcom, so things kind of have to reset to a certain degree.
Mhm.
There is a status quo that has to be maintained within this format so that the story can move on. That's where Stomping Grounds doesn't ease up because we never, like, the world does keep moving forward. And the things that force this world to be cocooned and live in this bubble get in the way of these plots resetting in the end of the day. You can't put the genie back in the bottle is literally one of the things that keeps happening in this story. And that's what also makes it interesting because you do feel a certain sense of deterioration and inevitability through these like just daily occurrences that this family is going through.
Nice, nice. Well, please tell us where we can go, any details of the campaign. Tell us anything that we need to know about that so that um, listeners can find out more.
Absolutely. It's run by Humanoids, the publisher of the InCal, like you know them, French American publisher. We've had a lot of luck to start working with them, and we're very proud of the fact that Mark Wade was he was the publisher who actually greenlit this when he was at the time. So as total nerds, that was amazing.
Yes.
And the same applies to Postmortal, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, right now the Kickstarter campaign is up, so you can literally find it on Kickstarter. It's matched with another book that Humanoids is releasing that also has some similar themes called Kaiju Heart. So it's a Stomping Grounds Kaiju Heart Kickstarter, very easy to find. It's also on Humanoids website, so you can just find it there. We'll be posting about it a lot on our own social media, which will probably be linked below.
Mhm.
So we're gonna put all the links below so you can come in, but these campaigns move fast and move hard, and Humanoids really knows what they're doing about them. So chip in early because this is essentially a pre-release campaign. And then a standard edition will hit the book market later on in November. But this edition has a lot of exclusive. It's essentially a pre-order for a Kickstarter exclusive set of bundles. So it's really cool. Jump in, support our work, support independent publishing, and enjoy a very, very unique book. Like, I'm pretty sure there's nothing else in the market that is like this. And I've seen a lot of fantastic, like, oh, kaiju battles and this. This is not what this is. We've taken the opposite approach to it, and I think it creates
Mhm.
something really unexpected, really unique, and also really accessible. Like,
Sounds
it's
good.
very much framed like it is in this weird young adult Futurama space where it never goes too far to be like, it's not a Rick and Morty type thing. It's not crude in any way. It's very gentle. So even if you're a middle grade reader, it's not as gentle as Solar Sisters, but you'll be okay with it. If you're young adult, definitely in this like middle ground sweet spot, but also if you're an adult, and that's part of where the spectrum of characters really comes because we balance our plot between this is how the adults are experiencing this, and these are the struggles they have to go through, and this is what the teen and the kid are experiencing, and that's very, very different. So we kind of show the entire spectrum of perspectives.
Love it, love it. No, I love that the creating has continued and is continuing. I love that there's more on the way. Excited to see this book in motion and excited to have conversations ahead about what is next.
Thank you
Thank you.
so, so much. Next time we talk, we will
Absolutely.
talk Solar Sisters, and it's going to be incredible.
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes. We'll talk